let's get into why people don't do what they know they need to do. So why do we hold ourselves back? Why do we prevent ourselves from taking the actions that we need to be able to take on a consistent basis? Well, first of all, we think visualization is enough. So apologies in advance to any of you who are total avid believers in The Secret. All you got to do is imagine everything and you will attract it into your life, the law of attraction. I'm not saying there's not some value and usefulness in the law of attraction. There is. But this notion of visualization, what the research actually shows in psychology is that when people just visualize, that's all they do. They imagine being successful. A lot of times that actually has a negative impact upon their ability to achieve the goals. Because, and again, the explanation that the psychologists that have studied this have suggested is that it's almost like the visualization itself gives you the good feeling, and therefore you're no longer as motivated. It's almost like you no longer get the same dopamine spike, which is the chemical of dopamine, of motivation. You no longer get the same spike when you visualize it vividly because you visualized it. It's almost like, oh, I imagine myself being successful. Oh, this feels really good. Now you're less likely to tie that to the actions you have to take, right? Because it's quite separate to all of the hard work you might need to put in ahead of time. So visualizing the end result is not enough. Second of all, there's the comfort of the victim story. And if we're being, again, ruthlessly honest with ourselves, bringing that back, a lot of times it's nice to be a victim. It's nice to turn around and say, the reason I wasn't successful was because the world is unfair. The reason I wasn't successful is because of the economy. The reason I wasn't successful is because of the government. The reason I wasn't successful is because of my parents, because of my teachers, because of my friends. They brought me down. They dragged me down. It's easy for us to see the world as a place whereby we are the victims of it. And to make excuses. Well, I would have done it. I would have gone to the gym, but it was raining outside. I would have done this, but this happened. We always look for the excuses. And so how are you supposed to do the things you know you need to do if you're constantly looking for the reasons as to why you can't, as to the reasons that are outside of your control that you are the victim of? You're the victim of your circumstances in that way. So sometimes it's we visualize it, we think everything is perfect. Okay. But then we're no longer motivated to do it because we've already experienced the emotion. And sometimes it's a case of we really want to be the victims. Now, we'll never call ourselves the victims, but if you ever hear yourself giving excuses, right, you will never or rarely call them excuses. You'll call them reasons. And when you call them a reason, you're playing the victim story. When you own up and be ruthlessly honest with yourself and you give yourself excuses and say, I was lazy. That's why I didn't go to the gym. I was lazy. I made the excuse. There's a beautiful liberating feeling of this. And the reason it's so important to do is because once you recognize that you are full of incredible potential and you believe in that potential, then you can give yourself a ruthlessly honest appraisal of your actions. And you can actually give yourself, you know what? You're not doing enough right now. You're not making enough of an effort. You are lazy. You can call yourself out, because the reason we don't call ourselves out is because we're terrified. We're terrified of not being enough. We're terrified of it being an identity for us. But instead, when you recognize your greatness, you can be okay with the fact that I'm playing a victim now. I'm making excuses. They're not reasons, they're excuses. I was lazy. That's the truth, right? And that gives you the opportunity then to make changes, because you're owning up to it. And that's a sense of personal responsibility that can be absolutely transformational. Next is impatient. We're impatient for transformation, right? We want everything like this. We want everything like that. And we live in a world now where we can get so many things so quickly. We can change so many parts of our life very quickly. It's so easy to do so many things with technology. And so we've developed a sense of impatience. We want to be there where we want to be, and we want to be there now. We want to lose that weight in a moment. We want to be able to change our lives dramatically. We want to earn all that money without having to wait any more, because it feels forever. But we need to be able to find a strategy that helps us to be able to develop that sense of patience and to be able to be more effective at moving step by step towards where we need to get to. Something else is what psychologists call delay discounting. This basically is also known as the present bias. It's the notion that says is that the more of a delay that we have a particular reward, the more we discount it, right? Or we overvalue the present versus the future. So you go to your fridge, you open it, and there's a cheesecake there. And you think about your six-pack that you want to have in 3 months from now, and you compare it to the cheesecake. And you go cheesecake, six-pack, cheesecake, six-pack. Now, some of you will be thinking cheesecake and then follow it with a six-pack of beer. But I'm saying cheesecake, and six-pack in terms of abs. And so when you have that debate, the problem is the abs don't feel nearly as good as the cheesecake because the cheesecake is right there in the moment. And again, lots of research has found that we tend to overvalue things in the present and undervalue things that we have, rewards we have in the future. So once again, we need a strategy to be able to overcome that as well. Hint, I'm about to share with you things that deal with all of these, right? So that's the good news. Next is the notorious unreliability of how you feel. We live in a world where a lot of times people talk about what you need to do is trust your feelings, trust your feelings, trust your feelings. From the point of Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, trust the Force, Luke, deep within your Force. But people forgot about Star Wars when they go into trust your intuition, trust your gut, trust your feelings. Well, the problem is that you forgot that the Force also has the dark side, right? And that's when your feelings are betrayed. So the problem is we also have emotional patterns. And sometimes when we try to figure out what we really feel, sometimes we have emotional patterns of hurt from the past. So when we do listen to ourselves, we don't always make the right decisions. And so it's important whenever we are in a situation where we're trying to achieve something, oftentimes we'll listen to how we feel. I don't feel motivated. I don't feel motivated to do this. I don't feel motivated to do that. I know I need to do my accounts, but I don't feel motivated. Or I just want to watch one more episode. What we do is we allow our feelings to dictate what we do. We allow our temptations to dictate what we do. And the unreliability of how we feel is that so often our feelings will steer us from away from what is good for us and towards what makes us feel good at that moment, or at least what doesn't make us feel bad at that moment. But if you want true long-term success, you need to stop listening to the feelings that try to tempt you, and you need to start listening to the future possibilities in front of you. You need to deliberately decide to override those. How do you overcome these things that are stopping you from doing the things that you know you need to do? Well, first of all, in order to get yourself to do the things you need to do, the first is a principle from psychology called mental contrasting. Now, this is, again, has been shown by psychologists to be an evidence-based practice that can immediately make you significantly more likely to achieve your goals. So we've already highlighted what doesn't work, right? What actually works against you, which is just pure visualization. What does work is mental contrasting. And this works in two ways. Number one, you contrast where you are to where you want to be. All of you who are coaches will know this is a basic practice. Present state, desired state, and you can contrast the two. Where am I? Where do I want to be? What's the difference between the two? But mental contrasting also involves predicting what are the negative things that could happen in the future that might stop me from achieving my goals. In other words, you're visualizing the good and the bad. You're visualizing the negatives and you're visualizing the positives. You're also visualizing what will happen if I don't take action and what will happen if I do take action. So you're looking at it both, the good and the bad, the obstacles and the rewards. And by contrasting and going between them, what happens is your brain gets a more realistic appraisal of exactly what you have to face. And it prepares you for those particular challenges. It prepares you for the slip-ups. It prepares you for the obstacles so that when they occur in the real world, you're ready for them. The problem with just visualizing is you imagine it, and then, oh my goodness, you mean I have to do hard work? I have to exercise? I have to stop eating cake all the time? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's terrible. So you give yourself this wonderful opportunity by you committing to contrasting between what you want and the challenges that you face and going back and forth between them. And by doing so, you put yourself in a ridiculously useful position for ensuring that you're going to achieve these goals. And so when we talk about like getting back to imposter syndrome, part of the thing about imposter syndrome is, and imposter syndrome, for anyone who doesn't know, is whenever we doubt who we are, we doubt that we have what it takes. We think any day now, someone's going to figure us out. But the reality is most people are guessing. Most people are angling. Most people are doing their best to try to put on a facade. Because at the end of the day, we're in a changing environment full of lots of crazy things happening that we have to try to figure out. And there's lots of uncertainty. So in order for us to be able to deal with the ups and the downs, the good and the bad, we need to be able to visualize them both. And that's, again, being ruthlessly honest with ourselves. What are the challenges? What are the good points? And as a result of that, we're now putting ourselves in a position where we're ready to deal with whatever they are. So again, as a simple practice, think about what you want to achieve. Where are you? What are the obstacles along your journey? What will happen if you don't take action? What will happen if you do take action? How do you overcome those obstacles? If you visualize the whole process, you're much more likely to actually take the actions you need to. Second of all, owning up to the victim narrative. Again, you got to accept it. Whenever you call it a reason, turn it into an excuse. Say, well, the reason I did it. No, the excuse. The excuse I'm going to give is this. And if you start using that language with yourself, if you start owning up and saying, the excuse as to why I didn't do what I said I was going to do is because I couldn't be bothered, I was too lazy, I didn't think about it enough, I had other priorities, whatever it is, but call it an excuse and own up to the fact that you're playing the victim. Just because you play the victim doesn't mean that you're the worst human being in the world. We all do it. So if you own up to the fact that I'm playing the victim right now, it means that you give yourself permission to turn from a victim into a hero. And the only difference between a victim and a hero is that the hero says, okay, whatever's happened, I'm going to take control of my life and I'm going to do what I need to do to overcome the obstacles and the challenges and the hurdles that have been put in front of me. The victim allows the hurdles and obstacles and challenges to knock them down and they stay down. The hero, on the other hand, decides, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to figure out a way to overcome them. I'm going to figure out a way to do what it is that I need to do so that I can become the hero of my own narrative. And when you own up to the victim narrative, that's the game changer, because it allows you to be able to no longer be playing this narrative game where we say, oh, well, it's just that the world is this and the world is that. Look, the world is unfair. But us believing that because the world is unfair, we can't do anything about it is the biggest lie that we tell ourselves, and we need to stop. Next, think long term, think big, think vivid. So important that we decide to imagine the future, vividly imagining exactly what we want. If we want to overcome this present bias or this delay discounting effect, what we need to do is we need to spend time really vividly imagining exactly what we want to achieve. Now, that's similar to the imagining that we said what you don't want to do from a goal setting point of view, but we combine that with mental contrasting. So if you want, for example, the six-pack, you visualize how good it would be, exactly what it would be like. But then you imagine tackling the challenges along the way. What happens when you go to a party and everyone else is eating your favorite banoffee, right? You look at them and they're all eating this banoffee and you're like, oh my goodness, I would so love that banoffee. By the way, if anyone hasn't heard, banoffee is like the most tastiest dessert you can possibly imagine. So you look at them and they're doing it. You have to have that in your program where you're imagining it. You use that contrasting. But the reason you need the visualization for the goal as well is because that visualization needs to make it so that you value that future experience as much as you value the present temptation, and you contrast between the two. So you're turning up how much you desire this particular goal or objective that you have in the future. And by thinking big, by not just having, okay, I'm going to lose 5 pounds, by thinking about 10 pounds, 15 pounds, whatever would be a challenge to you, like there's a thing called OKRs, objective key results, that are popularized in Google and LinkedIn. And what they say is when you set an objective, try to set an objective challenging enough that you're 80% sure that you'll achieve it, right? Because when you're 80% sure, you're really pushing it. It's one of these audacious goals that's so challenging that you're not 100% sure you think you could, but you wouldn't guarantee it. That's an exciting goal. It ramps up the dopamine and makes it so that you start to value it as much as you do the present bias. Next is focus on one step at a time. You've got yourself excited. You know what you need to do. Now bring it down into actual practice steps. One step at a time. Why? Because you can be overwhelmed. I'm writing a book at the moment. If I thought to myself, okay, I'm just going to write a book. Okay, how many words? Okay, it's going to be 100,000 words. Okay. Immediately I'm overwhelmed. When I break it down into 50 chapters and I break each chapter into 2,000 words and I break each 2,000 word chapter into a week and I break each 5 days of the week, 400 words a chapter, all of a sudden it becomes manageable. I know each step along the way what I need to do. So it's really important when we want to actually take action, give ourselves one action at a time, right? One by one by one by one, we create this continuous sort of sense of momentum that gets us towards achieving what we need. Discipline is greater than motivation. So with this, what we mean is do not rely on how you feel. Don't wake up expecting, oh, I feel motivated today. Today, I think I'm going to exercise. If I exercised only when I felt like exercising, I wouldn't be exercising very much. But I do it regularly because I built in the discipline, and the discipline comes from routines. It comes from, first of all, you motivate yourself to start a discipline, to start a habit that you build into your life. You say, this is important. You push yourself to do it every single day. And before you know it, finally, you put it into routine. And anyone who's successful in any area, and many of you will agree with me on this, I'm sure, routines are everything. Build routines for success. It's not about doing it when you feel like it or just spending a week and just getting all of it done then. You cannot spend a week and then expect that the rest of your life is going to be fixed. What we need to do is build routines into our life where consistently we're working on ourselves.